There we go. We should now be live. Hello, everybody. I forgot to do that thing with the microphone. Hello, Chad. I'm doing okay today. Hello, Colt, Berenson, Kairu, Crystal Ford, if you're still here, King Giga. Hello, James Top Boy. Hello, Kalis. The Jurassic World Evolution 1 Ankylodocus wasn't bad. Oh, King, really, King Giga? It wasn't bad? You like your sauropods looking malnourished? Let's clear that one. Sorry, folks. Right, so what is the point of today? Today I want to just kind of have a bit of a discussion chat with you guys. So I wanted to talk about the event last Saturday, and talk about some stuff from that, and talk about some things I didn't put in the video for this week, and obviously talk about it for those that didn't watch that video. And also talk about, you know, Evolution 3 in general. So that's what today... Today you have to explain your wrongness in not pre-ordering. Okay, James Top Boy, well, I'm sure we'll get around to that. So let's start with talking about the event. So, let's put some images up on the screen. Okay. Where are we? London Din event. There we go. There I am. You can just call me Jim. Okay then, Jim. I shall just call you Jim. John Drew, I would also like Zalmoxes. It's been one of my favourite dinosaurs ever since the Zalmoxes mod and its presence in Prehistoric Planet. So, yes, the event on Saturday. This was me outside of the event. And I suppose this is where we can start with what I actually really like. I can be positive at the beginning of this stream. That's a rarity. It is indeed a rarity sometimes. But yeah, this was just like the first example of the level that they went to in order to sort of immerse you in what was going on. They really did, if I switch to the next picture, they really did sort of put a lot of effort into kind of getting you immersed in this idea that you are going to this secret research facility for Din. Like, they had put up posters and signage almost everywhere. So this was on the bridge that sort of went over the road to where the facility was. So they had their own, you know, labeling and signage up and everything. And it was just really well done. This was the outside of the building. It was just really cool to see it all up there like that. They really did do a good job. The company that was putting this on, obviously it's not Frontier. Frontier paid a company to do it. But they really did do a good job. Dan's Doodles, it was fun. It was a very fun event. Let's see, I've got some from inside. This was, I think, one of my one of the funniest signs I saw on the whole day. Like, and no TMI maybe, but I had gone into the bathroom And there it was, in front of me, in the bathroom, this signage about washing your hands in the bathrooms. It's just that level of attention to detail was just kind of fun to see. They did their due diligence with the company. Yes, they did indeed, Jim. Nicholas, we'll talk about the roster a little bit later on. Don't worry, Dan's Doodles, I have the concept art. Do not smother poop on the juveniles, basically. Yeah, basically, yeah. And then they also changed all the signage that was in, like, the building itself, because obviously the building's got, like, multiple levels and floors, so they put their own sort of map over it. So this was all the things that was apparently in our building. The digital training facility and emergency bunker was where the actual gameplay session was. But yeah, that was quite fun. And like inside they had these big like along one wall, just like the map of all the DIN locations around the world that you were going to play in. So they had Hawaii and Montana here. Obviously maps we had already known about. And on the other side you had China. And there was another one somewhere. Oh, so we had Indonesia, park in Indonesia being, which I don't remember us ever being told that there was going to be a park in Indonesia. Or was that is that the Guinea map or something? We were told King Giga. Oh, okay. I just hadn't. I wasn't aware of it until I'd seen this big map. So the bird behind the desk was hell of it. Dan's Doodles. He a bit more dignified. And yeah, like while the event was going on, basically you just had like loads of people walking around. It was kind of weird that like you had, there was a bunch of actors all dressed up in various. You had some as rangers, some as security, some as scientists, and they were just like constantly walking around on sort of looping NPC sort of things. So like they would come through like lost property. Or someone would come through with a file, give it to the central reception, and then someone else would come and take the folder from central reception. And because me and Berenson were there, I think half an hour or so early, we got to see them looping around several times. But that just also kind of helped to immerse you in what was going on. I'm surprised you don't have an African map or Australian. Yeah, there are some places where I think maps could be inserted in the future, especially for sandbox builds. Australia definitely one of them, considering we have, you know, Chronosaurus and Muttaburrasaurus. Not gonna lie, I'll say from seeing your video, I agree the employee shouldn't have interrupted you when you were analyzing the animations to see their quality. My advice is before opinion, look at product by itself. Yeah, Minecraft, we'll get into that, what happened with that a little bit later on. Will all skins, patterns, and maps be unlocked immediately or not? Well, Crystal Ford, I can tell you one thing in regards to this. So when I checked out the modular building system, there were 2 statues that I could see in there that were locked behind earning 5 stars on certain campaign maps. Now, that was the only 2 things that I saw in regards to that, but obviously we had a relatively limited experience of the game, which I'll talk about in a bit. but it is clear that there is some stuff that is in sandbox mode locked behind campaign progression. So I suspect you are still going to have to play through gameplay modes to unlock everything for sandbox. But yeah, so let's get to the actual... So about when the event did actually begin, so we were all given these lanyards with Din Park Manager on, which is nice. We were allowed to keep these, which was a nice touch. And the little QR code goes to the Din website we checked. But it was a nice touch, you know, for a bit of a freebie in terms of the swag. And when the tour started... So this was the first place we got to go and see. They had this, this sort of an area for building it, and they had this big map on a table where, you know, they had some 3D printed bits and bobs, and they were talking about the customization. There was a big push about the customization at the beginning of the tour and how good it was going to be for park builders. But they were talking to us not as game players, but like we were going to be the park builders working for them, which again I thought was a nice touch. This actor really knew his spiel as well. This particular guy, he rattled off everything at quite a quick pace. I'm just gonna have a quick drink. Hello, Smaug. Sorry, I was just having a quick check on something. And then also in here we had these I would love one of these on my wall, by the way. I thought these were really, really cool. That they had some mock-ups of the Jurassic World flags. I would definitely love to have one of these banners on my wall or something like that. And I believe these are the ones that I think these are the ones we currently have in game, aren't they? Because I'm pretty sure we have a blue one, a green one, a yellow one, and a red one. I want those banners as a blanket. That would be pretty cool. Hello, Tyrannical Lizard. And they were huge. I have a picture of me standing with them. There I am. So yeah, they were pretty big. And then we were taken on to have a look at they had a mock-up of like the canoe, which I thought was quite cool. And here he was talking about the canoe ride and the balloon tour. I was a little bit rude at this point because he was going on about how revolutionary the balloon tour was. And I just kind of, like, quite loudly under my breath said, yeah, I wonder where they got that idea from. Because, like, he was talking like no one had ever done a dinosaur game with a balloon tour ride before. And I was like, yeah, don't pull the wool over my eyes. I remember JPOG, thank you very much. But yeah, they had some nice concept art of the canoe tour ride here and some other elements of the game. I do always love seeing concept art. I think concept art is some of the coolest stuff you can see for video games because, you know, it just shows you the process of going into designing it. And then from here, we then had a conversation about the types of fence and security that you were going to be using. These were some, if I have to say, these were some quite cheap mock-ups of the fencing system, but they got the point across, you know. They also had some of the path textures on the floor from the game, you know, just to get that across. it was very immersive, and it was all really interesting. After this, we had like a conversation with the dinosaur rangers, and they basically told us about how you got to make sure they're fed, how you've got to make sure there's medical care for them, and how they can make babies. Now, it was nothing like excessively different or interesting. They did have a guy walking around with a raptor on his arm, which I'm sure you'll see a bit later on. Massey, I'm trying to hire a concept artist. They are not cheap. Yeah, artists are not cheap in general. I can say that due to the community I'm in. There was another room below this, which they were talking about the locations we were building and their unique details that were going to be part of them. Just kind of, you know, it was a warning that there's going to be sandstorms and blizzards and stuff like that. I really love these Jurassic World China and Japan banners, though. Like, I hope they sell these as merchandise, because I would love to have a couple of these on my wall. I think they're great. There was I took a photo of the whiteboard as well that they had mocked up in this room, just because I thought there was some interesting stuff on here. In Montana native species, nest checking, delivery zones, next breeding program, Megalodon crossed out as too aggressive. I thought there was some interesting doodles on this whiteboard that I thought was quite fun. They also had some, like, I suppose terrarium is probably the word, which of just like various foliage from some of these places that we would be going to. So I think this one is Malta. This is foliage from Malta, just to sort of demonstrate the difference in foliage type for each map. They had like a Malta one, a China one, and a Japan one, just to kind of get it across. I didn't even notice the Megalodon being crossed out for being too aggressive. And then, basically, we were ushered in after that to the gameplay experience from here. And this is kind of where the day took this is where the event took a downturn for me, because at this point I was like really excited. All the tour had been really cool. All the actors have been really fun. Since you made the video, have you had a slight opinion change from when you were interrupted by the employee? No. So I'll explain that in a sec. But yes, one thing I do have to say, I'm so glad that we have a proper menu screen back. As much as Jurassic World Evolution 2's main menu screen is very modern in as that it looks like it's a flipping tablet or phone screen, the main menu screen for a video game should look, you know, cool. And I do think going back to Jurassic World Evolution 1 style and having, you know, a proper map on display, I think that's really nice. And also, obviously, here you had you know, your campaign, your challenge, your sandbox mode. So, in the way that the event went, we were only permitted to play either the campaign map or the sandbox map. And for the campaign map, it was you were literally going through the tutorial mission in the Montana Badlands. For sandbox, they gave you control of the pre-built Nevada park that we've seen in a couple of videos already. Obviously, I was not permitted to record any footage on screen, and again, I don't really understand why. It would have been nice to have been able to take at least a couple of pictures, but it is what it is. But something that did tick me off was that the actors kept coming over and interrupting us while we were trying to play, and we only got about 25 minutes to play, I think. So it was really annoying to have them coming over and kind of prodding you on the shoulder and asking you questions that had nothing to do with the game. These weren't Frontier employees that were asking questions. These were just the random actors that were asking if, like, you'd noticed any weird behavior, because, like, they kept dipping the lights and pretending there was this hacking attack going on. And it was just really frustrating to be constantly interrupted like that. So I didn't think that was particularly nice. I just wish they had left us alone to play the game. But apart from that, the event side was fun. Would have been cooler if the main screen was like the shell map of old games. Yeah, the old shell map for CNC Generals was a live video, which was quite fun. I do remember that, Macy. I prefer 0 hours to standard Generals, though. It is their job to annoy people, they pay them for that. Possibly, yeah. And yeah, Zhao, I suppose I could have said that to her, but again, I didn't want to be rude. So, of my experience of the gameplay, oh no, I didn't decide not to pre-order because of someone interrupting. I've decided I still haven't been convinced to pre-order because there were a lot of elements that I experienced in the gameplay that I just wasn't satisfied with. So let's get to that. Let's get to that aspect. I will start on some positive things, because there are things to be positive about, and I often get accused of not being positive enough. So let me focus on the positive things. Just bring up this picture here. Again, this is from from the video itself, but, you know, it gets the point across. So, the new sort of hatchery element is very cool. And yeah, it was scripted to be basically like the Jurassic World experience, down to them, you know, throwing us into a bunker at the end of it, because of a pretend asset breakout. It was very, very immersive. Yes, you do complain a lot. Thank you, Jim. But, you know, I complain because I want to see stuff get better. I don't complain as much as I do about these games because I want to just diss on them all the time. I want them to improve, because just like I thought about Evolution 2, Evolution 3 has the potential to be a really fantastic game, but it needs to improve in areas. But let's focus on the good stuff. So the new hatchery screen, it's just so much better than the other games. Like, you have your male and your female options there. You can pick your skin color and patterns for them both, and you can see the dinosaur on screen as well, so you can actually see in real time what the thing is going to look like, which is something we have been asking for so long. We do finally have it now, and that is a good thing that we do finally have it now. We have to differentiate between complain and nag and make sure we don't fall into the wrong one. Yeah, I think that's a quite arbitrary difference, Jim. The new UI for hatchery is so nice that we can finally see what the skin looks like. Exactly, like, it's so good to finally have a live representation of what the thing is going to look like. Babies are just a marketing tactic. Oh, I'll get to that in a bit, Tyrannical Lizard. And yes, the fact that we do still have the Frontier variants of, you know, the Iguanodon and the Giga, thank God for that, because the Frontier Iguanodon is better than the Dominion Iguanodon. Fight me, I don't care. the Dominion Iguanodon sucks. So thank God the Frontier variants are still there. So yeah, the new hatchery UI, fantastic. Glad we have it. The genetic modification bit, which is on the trait screen, is also really good. Much better organized, much better laid out. Good. That is a good thing. The Dominion Iguanodon is as bad as the Frontier Giga. I like that simile, King Giga. You are completely correct. That is the perfect simile for it. The terrain tools was the next big thing in gameplay that I got to play around with. These are fantastic. They really have been well implemented. I would say that it's kind of about time. Again, I don't understand why it's taken them so long to give us actual half-decent terrain tools. But it's nice that they are finally here, because they do make building stuff so much easier to do. And you do have the, you know, the intensity and the radius bit as well, so you can be precise with it. There are limitations, which I'll get to in a bit, but for the most part, it's a really good system. And kind of attached to that is the fact that you can now get Path to do the ramping for you, which I did play around with in my gameplay. Was like you can now select the path to adjust terrain for you, so you can make those perfectly smooth ramps up and down things, which is like, at the moment for Evolution 2, it's one of the most annoying elements of trying to make a nice park, is to get the deformation to look smooth. Now you can just do it with the path. Looks fantastic. Great job. One of those small quality of life features that really is a good thing. You know Tsukai Mimus has been cut. Yeah, I think it has to, Kairu, to be honest. I'm just catching up with chat. My only complaint about the terrain tools is that you can't make bridges. Yes, we'll get to the complaints in a bit, Tyrannical. Basically, the terrain tool is peak. Yeah, the terrain tool is probably one of the biggest selling points for this game over Jurassic World Evolution 2 if you don't play with mods. So, you know, the experience modders have had for the last 3 years, thanks to Kyodenic, now everyone is going to have in the base game, which is good, you know. Positive thoughts, people. Positive thoughts, indeed. I suppose also, since we're talking about Path, the Path tool itself, again, thanks to Evo for looking at this in her video, the Path tool itself is great. We have so many types of path texture now, and the fact you can recolor them, we basically have an infinite paths. Like, yeah, we have infinite paths if you include the colors. So path art is going to really get crazy. I think Evo is going to come up with some crazy path art designs in her parks now, because we can, you know, we can choose specific colors and we can make things look really, really cool. I am expecting to see some like big Jurassic Park logo path art in the right colors. Maybe some DIN logos in the colors as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting some really awesome looking plaza designs. Yeah, indeed, T-Bird. I can see some crazy park layouts happening as well. I'm a console player, so having those terrain tools is... Yeah, exactly. So console players, I think, are amongst the people who are going to be most happy with many of the changes for Evolution 3, because no, for those of us on PC, some of this is stuff we've had for a while, but for console players, obviously, it's a big step up. Best in Sort has a rock addiction and wastes time in his videos. Yeah, obviously placing rocks is going to be a lot easier, although, that being said, I kind of don't like the rock brush. It's a bit heavy. I think it makes very untidy, messy looking rocky ridges, so I think I'm probably going to be someone who places rocks more than uses the rock thing. Yes, the waterfall. Well, we'll talk about waterfalls in a second. I want to stick to the positive bits. And the other thing, which I spotted in my gameplay, at least, and I'm aware it's been spotted by other people in videos, but I hadn't heard anyone mention it before I had seen folks' videos. The return of the Hyperloop as a transport, not just as a, you know, bias-in only thing. This is actually something I'm really happy that they did. I always wanted the Hyperloop to just be a alternative to the monorail. Like, I always wanted us to have some Hyperloop stations in Evolution 2 that weren't, like, attached to the bias-in power station and stuff. Because if you're trying to make a nice-looking park, you can't really do it with the Hyperloop. Having to have these power plants and stuff everywhere. So the fact that they've been introduced as actual proper stations now, so fun. But is it because of the new height problems for the monorail? I suspect, Macy, that you are correct here. I suspect it's because of the new terrain tools. They want to make sure that, you know, there's an alternative to the monorail. Because the monorail can be a bit iffy when it comes to, you know, real big terrain height differences. Something I also want to point out here in at least this research menu, we're back to a fractal research menu instead of a linear one. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that this is much closer to Jurassic World Evolution 1's research system, where you pick, you know, you can go down particular routes in the direction you want to go. Jurassic World Evolution 2's research system is linear. You just go in a straight line. You just research one thing after the other. Here, you can go and research different aspects at your leisure rather than the game's leisure. So that, I think, is good. Did any of you see if you can use more than one research team, expedition team? So in the gameplay I experienced, there were no options to do research or to do, you know, expeditions to the map, so I couldn't see. However, given that the scientist system is unchanged, which we'll go into in a bit, I suspect that the expedition system is also going to be unchanged. I love the Hyperloop being unavailable as an alternative. Yeah, so it means we can actually create parks without, because the monorail is kind of ugly. I've never really liked the monorail in the Evolution games. It's just ugly. So these were all the positive things I had to say about my gameplay experience. Let's move on to the neutrals. So, something I experienced, and I witnessed Evo having the same problem. So, the waterfall tool is fussy, as I suspected it would be. I was attempting to, on the Nevada map, there was a waterfall that was already there. So I thought, I'm just going to extend the top of the waterfall along to make the waterfall longer. And when I put the water down, it decided to remove all of the water entirely, both from the top and the bottom of this cliff. So then I put the water back at the bottom of the cliff, and it remade the waterfall, but only a short one. So again, I tried to make it longer, and then what it did is it did what it did here for Evo at this point in her video, where it just smoothed and flattened all of the terrain to the low height and didn't create the waterfall. It's it is a very fussy element to get to work correctly. It's definitely the sort of, because even when it puts the waterfall in, it kind of very quickly flickers between like, oh, here's a really nice waterfall, and then here's like one that looks rubbish. It's quite difficult to get it to look as right as you want it to. That doesn't surprise me. Zoo Tycoon 2 had a similar system, whereas if you put water at the top and the bottom of a cliff, it would automatically create a waterfall for you, and that also wasn't very reliable. I put it in my neutral section because I don't think it's a good or a bad thing, and yes, as Chad says, we were playing on a alpha build of the game, so all of these things might be fixed. But I suspect the waterfall tool is going to continue to be fussy in a few weeks' time when the game releases. Not gonna lie, that feels like a big feature that needed more playtesting before this event. At least Zoo Tycoon 2 had the excuse of being from 2006. Yes. I don't know. I haven't played around with the waterfall tool. I mean, does Planet Zoo or Planet Coaster, do the waterfalls work in the same way, or are they all manually placed? Do you have to put them down with the effects? Because I haven't seen this similar thing in Planet Zoo. So no, they are effects, right? So this is Frontier's first attempt, basically, so I suppose I can give them a pass for that. I mean, it does work most of the time. It's just some of the time it also is a complete arse to get to work. Well, I've already mentioned that some of the elements of modular building were locked behind campaign progress, which I know is going to annoy some folks, so oh, and so amenity buildings, they've gone back to giving us large, medium, and small versions of food and drink and shopping as separate buildings. So instead of having, like, clicking on large, medium, or small amenity building, and then it brings up another menu asking which one you want to build, you just pick small food or small drink or small shopping from the menu, which I think is a better way of doing it personally, because I would always forget to change the option in the bottom corner. Prehistoric Kingdom is a similar system to Planet Zoo, so you use effects to create waterfalls as opposed to automatically creating them. So, on to the things I am critical of. Or at least the things I am critical of from my experience at the gameplay session. And we'll start with the first one, which is about the modular building. This picture obviously from Evo's video. The modular building system has been implemented in the worst, most clunky way they could have done it. Instead of doing a similar system to Planet zoo where you have, oh, here's this building block, and then you click on the building block and then you pick from a material and a color. They have listed every single element in every single material you can have it. So you'll have all of the wall pieces in bamboo, all of the wall pieces in wood, all of the wall pieces in concrete, all of them in brick, all of them in metal, all of them in glass. So you get this huge list of stuff that you have to scroll through. It's really clunky, and yes, the filter button is there, but I didn't know it was there. I didn't know a filter button was there until I saw Evo's gameplay. Because when you bring up the modular menu for the first time, there are no tooltips telling you there's a filter there. I completely missed there was a filter button. It's just really awkward and clunky that it's been done in this way, and it takes up a lot of the screen. Like, you get this on one side, and on the other side you get a bunch of control tips, and then you also get a thing at the bottom telling you controls. It's just not very well organized, which makes it more difficult to use than it should be. And if you're coming to the Evolution games as somebody with not much experience of modular building, this modular building menu is not going to endear the system to you in any way. Like, this is going to make you dislike the system immensely. Couldn't they have just had a wall that you can switch to wood, brick? Exactly, Kairu. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, why can't we just have a single entity which we then pick from a material list? It's just, like, really awkward. Whether or not modular building is necessary I think that's a wider conversation we can have in a little bit. Oh, also, so even the prefabricated decorative buildings are in the modular building menu, which really confused me, because I spent like 5 minutes trying to find the decorative buildings that came with the game, and they weren't in any build menu, they were in this modular building menu. I'm like, why are they here and not in their own one? Like, the pre-builds, they're just for everyone to use. Surely it makes more sense to have those available for people from the main menu and not this modular building one. And something that I was quite disappointed about, but might be fixed by the time the game comes out, is just how few of them there are, pre-built decorative elements. In fact, a lot of them were sort of aimed at facility parks. I think I saw 3 planters, and that was all. So, for those people who are going, oh, modular building's optional, not if you want to decorate your park. If you want to decorate your park, you're going to have to build stuff yourself. Same, and that's even more so for the lagoons. So, this is where I actually focused quite a bit of my gameplay time on. I wanted to look at the lagoons. The lagoons have gone backwards. They're built in exactly the same way as you just put down circular sections of lagoon. You don't have any new shapes of lagoon. You don't have any new type of lagoon. They're just the same 3 generic types that we have had in Evolution 2. They connect in the same way. There's no tunnels, there's no lagoon walls or anything like that. It's just exactly the same as Evolution 2. Only, obviously, we have a cut roster that's lacking a lot of good species. I saw no lagoon rock, so I suspect Archelon and Nothosaurus are cut. There's no extra functionality to the lagoons. Like, we don't have any extra tour or anything like that. It's the same viewing gallery or the dome. can't change the color of the water or the color of the concrete or anything like that. And so there's no pre-built decorations for them. You know, all the decorations that we have right now, like the thermal vents and the bubble rocks and the coral rocks, they don't exist anymore. They were not in the build that I was playing. The only decorations still there are the ones you can snap to the outside of the lagoon, and the planter one, the tree one, and the fountain one, they've been blanked. So there were no trees or plants in the planted ones, and the fountain was just like the water and the squirty things. There was none of the rocks or the amber that's present in the fountain now. That was all gone, so it was all clear. So again, if you want to decorate your lagoons, you're going to have to make all of the decorations yourself. There's no, all these new foliage and texture brushes we've got. We've got 2 extra texture brushes, multiple foliage brushes. None of them are for the lagoons again. So the lagoons, no improvements, and they've gone backwards because we've lost quite a few species that added something new to the lagoons. The only thing they can do now is you can breed with them, which, again, the dinosaur baby thing, we'll get to talking about that in a little bit. But this was also where I experienced one of a number of bugs from my gameplay session. I'll just tell you guys what happened. The only animal I created in the entirety of my gameplay session, I created a pair of female Kronosaurus, 2 Kronosaurus, and released them from the hatchery. I'm talking about criticisms, no new types of pattern, so you only get 1 pattern per creature. So, and for most of the returning animals, the patterns are identical. So for the Chrono, all of the patterns and the colors we have in Evolution 2, they're the same in Evolution 3, so don't expect much differences in the skin system, which is a shame. But yeah, so the 2 Kronosaurus, they swam out the lagoon hatchery. I got to see the animation of them leaving the hatchery, and then they both flew out of the water to the same height as the helicopters have, around that height above the lagoon. They then played out their social animation, which is the same as it is in Evolution 2. They're just the kind of half-assed swim around each other kind of in a semicircle thing. And then they realized they needed to be inside of the lagoon, so they kind of drifted back down to the water. It was hilarious. I laughed my arse off seeing this. And you could say, yes, it's a beta build, bugs were to be expected, but it's not a good look for the game trying to convince someone to buy it for there to be such a real obvious bug. And also, this is a bug that we had in Jurassic World Evolution 2 that was fixed, so it's been unfixed for Evolution 3. Playtesting, yeah. Frontier is like Penguin from Absolute DC Universe. They're practically dead. Sorry, Chad. I was just catching up with Chad. So yeah, that wasn't very impressive. The lagoons being so badly made, implementation in this game being as bad as it is, that really upset me. And while we're talking about modular building being, oh, it's only optional. Well, depends what you're referring to. Some buildings do have a lot of prefabs. I went through pretty much all of the buildings, clicking on them to see how many prefabs they had. Most of the viewing buildings have 6, but a lot of buildings have 1 or 2 prefabs. Not every building has 6 versions, as I think some people are thinking it was going to be. That's not the truth. There's only a couple of prefabs for some. And even the buildings that do have 6 prefabs, technically you don't get 6. What you get are 3 sets of 2. So for the viewing tower, you get 2 prefabs that basically look like the Jurassic World viewing tower, just with different decorative elements on the ground. You have... Oh no, James, I was on a full sandbox. So Jim, this was on the sandbox map that I'm experiencing all this, because I wasn't on the campaign map. I picked to play the sandbox. And you could argue that, you know, it's still a beta build, maybe there's more coming. All I'm saying is, in the sandbox gameplay I was experiencing, only a few buildings had more than 1 or 2 prefabs. So as I was saying, like the viewing tower, you get 2 that are the Jurassic World style. So I'd assume they'll have all map types available on sandbox in the main game. So Jim, I don't think you're understanding. What map the sandbox is on doesn't matter in what prefabs you have, because I had all of the different versions of prefab for other structures, like the viewing towers, the viewing galleries. I had like the Japan one, the China one, the standard temperate one, the Jurassic Park one. Like, I had all of the different map versions for some, but for most buildings you only get 1 or 2. Just so I can make that clear, because I think you were misunderstanding me there, Jim. But yeah, basically, even the... So what I'm getting at is the buildings that had like 6 prefabs, technically there were just 3 sets of 2, just with slightly different colors. So it's not even like 6, it's 3. So again, the people that want to say modular building is optional, you can just use prefabs. Yes, but there are not like millions of prefabs. There is a limit. Lagoon decorations. Oh, so bugs and glitches didn't just have the Chronosaurus bug. So the Diplodocus that Evo had on the... I think I've got a picture of this, actually. Do I have a picture of this? No, I don't think I do. No. But basically, like, on the Nevada map, I think you can see it in Evo's gameplay, that there was, like, an island with Diplodocus on it. So for the entirety of my gameplay, all of the adult Diplodocus were stuck together in one sort of blob. Like, they had all clipped into each other and then had gotten each other kind of stuck in this blob. They couldn't free themselves. Even after the 20 minutes... It wasn't the Nevada map, it was the Montana Badlands map. It wasn't Berenson. The Badlands map was the campaign map. Sandboxes, it was Nevada. I know, because when the save was labelled as Nevada Sandbox. Montana was the campaign. The sandbox map was Nevada. They were different maps. But yeah, so the Diplodocus was stuck in this blob, and after 20 minutes of gameplay, they were still stuck in the blob. They were all still coalesced together. So I put that down as a bug, because I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to happen. It's a feature. And I had a lot of graphical problems, so a lot of screen tearing because they weren't running with VSync on. And I didn't even see an option to turn VSync on in the graphics settings. I did have a look at what graphics settings they were running the games at on the computers we were using them on. They were running them at very high, not ultra, just high or very high for most of the thing. Did I experience FPS drops? Not as bad as Evolution 2 currently has FPS drops when guests come into the park. However, they weren't running the game at the resolution of the monitors. I could spot it because I have a 1440p monitor. So I have to run everything at the resolution of 2560 by 1440, whatever. If I try to run a 1920 by 1080 game on my monitor, it makes everything look a bit blurry, a little fuzzy, a little unfocused. That was the same thing I was getting on the monitors we had at the gameplay experience. The same sort of blurry fuzziness over everything. So it was quite clear to me that they weren't running the game at the resolution of the monitors, and the fact that we had so much screen tearing also showed me that they weren't running the game at the refresh rate of the monitors either, which I think was done in order to save frame rate. So I suspect that this game is going to have to be one that we have NVIDIA DLSS on or something like that to get stable frame rates. I suspect it's probably going to be a problem. Are guests at least not just NPCs? No, guests are just NPCs. I saw no evidence that guests do anything more than what they do now. They might sit down on things, although that being said, I didn't see guests actually animated. Like, they didn't animate sitting down. I just spotted that they were guests occasionally sat at the chairs and tables and the benches. But guests don't do anything new. They walk around in clumps, they randomly point at shit, there's no path viewing, so they can't view things from the path still. And like people are saying, you can't build bridges from the path tool or modular building tool, which I still don't understand. I don't get that. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Is the building style the same as Planet Zoo? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jim. But yeah, guests are as useless and rubbish as they have always been in the Evolution games. Oh yeah, so Jim, you do get that advanced editing system with the red, green, and blue circles, as well as the red, green, and blue arrows if you want to carefully move stuff. That's identical. That system is in there. Best in slot saw this as well. The sitting down without an animation. Yeah. I mean, there could be an animation there. Maybe I just didn't see it. But again, I didn't spot it in sort of the 20 odd minutes. Graphically, the game looks nice. I will give it that. The game does look nice. I don't think the difference is as incredible as the difference between Evolution 1 and 2. To me, there is a bigger difference between Evolution 1 and Evolution 2 than there is between Evolution 2 and Evolution 3. Evolution 3, they've neatened up the lighting a little bit nicer. You know, obviously there's ray tracing now with it. So yeah, the lighting's a little better, the colours pop a little better. But I wouldn't say it's overwhelmingly... Like, it's not a massive improvement. It's a very minor one. Yeah, exactly, Minecraft, like, guests having requirements, and that's something else we'll talk about in a second, is the things that resolutely have not changed. But let me just finish up this bit about the gameplay experience before we talk about other things. So, you know, the end of the gameplay experience, we're able to have our photo with... where is it? Our photo with the animatronic on the guy's arm. It was a very good animatronic. Looked pretty cool. I don't think my PlayStation 5 will survive. No, well, for those on console, you will have a complexity meter that will tell you whether your park and stuff is going too complex. But yeah, you know, we got to have a picture with the raptor, and that was the end of the gameplay experience after about 20-25 minutes, like I say. So, after that 20-minute section, I had not been convinced to pre-order the game. 20 minutes though, 25 minutes, it's not really that long. It's not long enough to really have gotten anything, any feel for it. Which I think this kind of leads me into a point about modern gaming marketing. Is that the idea of demos have... no, we're going on for another hour or so, Andre. The idea of demos has disappeared from gaming. And I think that's really bad. Because you just can't get the feel for a game from a 20-minute playtest or from a trailer or watching people. You have to play it yourself. So I really wish games would bring back demos. I mean, I'm young enough to remember demo discs, where, like, PC Gamer used to bring out, like, a disc and you'd have, like, 30 demos for games on this disc. And you could just try a bunch of different titles that were coming. can we not mention the Rancor from Rebirth? Why only half an hour in a building game? It's probably the most dumbest thing I've heard other than... Yeah, so Eva and I got an hour and 20, which I can fully accept influencers having longer. But when you think about... And I was talking to Colt about this earlier. So the event was an hour long. They told us to show up 15 minutes early, which me and Berenson did. We didn't start anything for about 10 to 15 minutes after the time it was supposed to begin. So 45 minutes we had. The tour took up another 15 to 20 minutes. The gameplay took up another 20 to 25 minutes, and then the bunker thing at the end took up the rest of the time. I kind of would have rather they gave us a little bit extra gameplay time and started the event at 6 like it was supposed to start at 6. It felt like they just wasted time, which was a bit of an aggravation, especially when, you know, we got such a limited length of time with the game anyway. Right, let me get rid of this, and let's have a bit more of an open conversation about some things. Or rather, let's have a conversation about why I haven't pre-ordered yet, because there is still just too much that I think is a problem. And let's bring this up. Let's zoom out a bit. And window capture. This one. There we go. Okay, so this is probably my biggest problem with the game at the moment. The roster isn't very good. The roster is very heavy on the canon animals, you know, Archaeornithomimus is here, Atrociraptor, but it's lacking in diversity, in my opinion. Like, we have Brachiosaurus, we have Mamenchisaurus, we have Patagotitan. We can assume that Dreadnoughtus is going to be in here somewhere. We got the Dippy, the Ankylodocus. We can assume Apatosaurus is going to be in here somewhere. But we don't have any small sauropods. A Margosaurus, a Nigersaurus. They don't appear to be coming back. I know we've still got, I think it's 6 more animals to be revealed. But it feels like they've been cut to me. There's just so many creatures that are in this roster. I'm like, why are they here? Why do we have Chunking and Gigant Spino? Like, I accept that we had 3 Chinese sauropods, Chunking, Gigant Spino, Huango. We were going to have to lose some of them. But why do we have arbitrarily Chunking and Giganto and no Huango? Like, that just feels arbitrary to me. Like, keep one of them. But if you're keeping only 2 of them and you're cutting the 3rd, I don't understand why, unless you're going to reset it back to us again. Compies. Why do these guys have babies? Why do they have babies? They're useless animals anyway, because we don't have a better way of displaying them. Oh, and that's something else. We have no low fences. All those low fences you've seen in screenshots and stuff, they're manually placed objects from the modular building system. There are no creatable low fences or hedges like we can make normal fence. So, Kyodenic, your fence mod is still going to be in demand. So yeah, so compies are useless, and the fact that we have baby compies, we're not going to ever see them. Like, what the fuck is the point of them? I don't understand why. I mean, this guy, beautiful, love it. Feathered ornithomimus. I suggested that they do this all the way back, I think over a year ago, when I was doing my CEO of Frontier video. Like I said, they should have a feathered ornithomimus in the game. We have it. Looks fantastic. Love it. Looks great. But no one's going to use Archaeornithomimus anymore. Why? I mean, people thought Archaeornithomimus was useless already as it was. Now, it's dead on arrival. This is a waste of a space. That could have been a Margosaurus right there. Or Archelon. Instead, an animal no one is going to use. I don't even really like Atrociraptor being here, but again, this is Dominion. Dominion has broken the franchise because of so many animals that we're going to have to squish in to the game to make a canon roster. Lokiceratops. I love the Lokiceratops, but why do we still have Chasmo then in that case? I thought Chasmosaurus, it's one of the few ceratopsians I really like from Evolution 2, but I thought Chasmo was bound to be cut because of Lokiceratops. But now we still have Chasmo, which surprises me. I agree, Andre. Like, I think a lot of content creators are not happy about the roster. Is a sauropod really a sauropod if it's small? Well, I would argue that a Margosaurus and Nigersaurus brought diversity to the game. The problem with this roster is it's just not very diverse. I'm so glad Metriacanthosaurus is in the game. It's one of my favorite carnivores still. I'm so glad it's still in here. Although this demonstrates a problem that I'm going to get to in a sec. Nodosaurus, I was very surprised that that was still here. I would have thought Nodo would definitely have gone. Protoceratops, I'm glad we finally have it. Psittacosaurus, I'm glad we finally have it. But it's just so weird. This roster feels so strange. Because if you look at how many animals we have yet to have confirmed, there are some real big names that are missing at the moment. Therizinosaurus, Dinocaris, the Archelon and Nothosaurus. Where are all the smaller carnivores? Where's Proceratosaurus? Where's Herrerasaurus? Where's Monolophosaurus? Like, all the smaller carnivores are missing. There's no Albertosaurus. The smallest one on this list is, Baryonyx or Cerato. We got no Albertosaurus. Deinonychus isn't here. Like, there are so many big-ticket animals that are missing. And it just feels like the roster's been created with a roulette wheel and just someone spinning it at random. It feels like there's no common sense to the roster at all. Why bring hybrids back again in a game where they implemented breeding in the company? Andre, I said exactly that to Colt before coming on stream. Why introduce breeding and then arbitrarily say, oh, well, the hybrids can't breed? I think that's really bizarre, because of all of the animals in the game, the hybrids are the one that you could do the most with in terms of sexual dimorphism. Like, you could make some really cool looking male and female versions of the hybrids, but they didn't do it. They just arbitrarily decided they can't breed. It's so arbitrary, it makes me think that Universal has told them that the hybrids aren't allowed to breed. I don't know why they would say that, but it's so weird that I feel like it's something Universal has said that they can't do. But it's just... And that actually gets us to talking about the sexual dimorphism and the babies. I'll be honest, I was never pro-baby dinosaur in the first place. I didn't think babies should be in the evolution games because, in my opinion, Frontier wouldn't be able to do it without doing it badly. I'm still not convinced that the sexual dimorphism or the baby breeding is a worthwhile addition. Let's start with the first aspect, and that is... well, is there any sexual dimorphism at all? There are some animals where it's really, really good. Casmo, I really like the dimorphism, you know, size of the frill, shape of the frill, like it should be. And then there are other animals, Concavenator. They're basically the same. Apart from, oh, this hump is slightly larger, but it's only a little bit larger. Dimetrodon. There is no... as far as I can tell, between male and female... maybe size, but they look pretty identical to me. The sexual dimorphism is terrible. Yeah. I could have understood cutting the roster if the sexual dimorphism was actually really good. But a lot of these are just, we'll copy-paste the model over and make the animals slightly smaller. Hematocephaly. There is no difference. Maybe the spikes around the head crest are a bit more prominent, but there is no difference. Giganotosaurus. Slightly taller head spikes, but apart from that, no difference. Where was this and this guy, the Sinoceratops? What is going on here with the female model? That crest just looks weird. And the Triceratops, they've done the same thing. Where is it? Like, the male crest on the Triceratops, that is massively oversized. But at least it's dimorphism. At least they look different. Too many of these animals, they just look the same. Like Spinosaurus. Why didn't you give the male Spino the more rectangular sail? At least it would be distinctive. I don't... It's such a lazy implementation of sexual dimorphism. And connected to this is it's lazy because having male and female animals, you don't even get any behavior differences. There's no, like, mating display animation or behavior animation for them, you know, fighting for mates or anything. There's no animation for that. I'm not saying I want mating animations, but no, like, male-female display relationship animation thing. Literally, it's just have male and arbitrary female animal in the enclosure, plop down nest, baby will come out of nest eventually. There's no courtship animation. There's no, like, egg brooding animation or anything like that. And people will say, oh, well, is it necessary to have stuff like that? No. But the dinosaurs have always felt basic. They have always been lacking in behavior, and they still don't have that many. And if you're going to the extent of putting male and female animals into the game, why not spend a little bit of time to give the male and female animals something unique, behavior-wise? And then the babies, well, the babies are a wonderful, cute, and easily marketable feature for YouTube videos. But they add nothing. The babies have one idle animation, and they have one, it seems, social animation with parents. I watched Gallimimus. They all had the same idle animation, the babies, and they all had the same parental animation. They only had one of each. So behavior-wise, I don't think much has changed. In fact, I can show you the animation. Well, I'm pretty sure the Archaeornithomimus have the same one. Yeah, this animation the baby play of it, like it jumping up in the air, and then it does like the feet thing. So they play that as the idle. They play that on coming out of the nest. And the galley has it. The Archaeornithomimus has it. Shall we just quickly check? Let's just quickly check the Ornithomimus. Yep, the Ornithomimus has it. So again, copy-pasting animations across lots of animals. People say that's acceptable and to be expected. I don't know. 3 games down the trot, I think we should have less copy-pasting, not more. Breeding subsequent generations does boost your park appeal. Yeah, like, there is mechanics attached to the babies. I just think they're very shallow, which has always been the problem with the evolution games. Shallow mechanics that just don't get deep enough. Like, there's no special management required for the babies. You just have to make sure that the paddock they're in is better, or it suits their requirements, which are slightly different to the adults. But that's it. There just isn't much to it. Yes, they do still crab walk. They do it less, but I did see crab walking occurring in my gameplay section. I was watching them do that when the woman came over and practically jabbed me in the shoulder, questioning why I wasn't building anything and just watching the dinosaurs. But I didn't have the heart to turn around and say to her, I'm watching them so I can see how good the animation quality is. I wouldn't mind seeing Prehistoric Kingdom a lot more on this channel. I do want to try to get more into Prehistoric Kingdom. It's just... when I do it, people turn up to the streams. If people want to see me play other stuff, they need to turn up to the streams. Like, people have said they wanted to see more War Thunder, but they never showed up. People said they wanted me to do Planet Zoo, but they didn't show up. Like, if you want to see me play stuff, come to the streams when I'm playing it. But yeah, I do want to do more Prehistoric Kingdom. I did see the Megalodon sit in the breeding tank. Yeah, like... it just looks so bizarre when they do that. Yeah, Kairu, I really like the look of the terrariums they're doing for the combies. PK's problem is, yeah, like, if Prehistoric Kingdom had the money and the backing of Frontier and Jurassic World Evolution, then Prehistoric Kingdom would be a lot further on with its development and stuff. Which is, it's kind of why I don't give Frontier a free pass on a lot of stuff. You know, they're a big video games company, and they aren't exactly a poor company. Yeah, they're doing badly, but they're only doing badly because they've made bad decisions. You know, they're still making money off of Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster and the Evolution games, and they've got the monetary backing of Universal for the Evolution games. So I'm like, yes, maybe it's not fair for me to say that Frontier need to work harder, but they're a big games company that make a lot more money than people like Prehistoric Kingdoms devs. I think they don't get a free pass because it's Frontier. I think we should have higher expectations, you know. Well, if Fletcher isn't getting Evolution 3, he really doesn't have a choice. Everyone will want Evolution 3 content, and he's irrelevant to the community. Okay, Jim. First of all, I'm already irrelevant to the community. Let's be fair. When it comes to the Evolution community, Evo, Best in Slot, and the Gaming Beaver are the only people that anyone says anything about. Triclaw is not a relevant part of the community and won't be for a very long time, if ever. Secondly, I brought Jurassic World Evolution 2 on the day it came out in order to try to grow the channel, and that I didn't get much channel growth from it, and I was disappointed that I spent money on a game that wasn't good enough to buy at that point in time. I have always maintained that we as gamers need to stop buying video games if we want the games to come out in a better quality. I've always maintained we need to vote with our wallets, and I'm not just going to buy Jurassic World Evolution 3 because that's what Evo is doing, and that's what Gaming Beaver is doing, and that's what's Best in Slot is doing. Fuck them. As nice as I can say it, fuck it. They are the influencers. They are getting the game, you know. I don't think they even have to buy it. I think they're going to be getting the game. They're going to be getting all the DLC. I'm not one of those. I am just a normal person like everybody else. And I don't think you should spend money on something you don't think is good enough. I mean, I've been saying that to you guys since Jurassic World Evolution 3 was announced. If I don't like it, I'm not going to buy it. Just because Evo has it, and Gaming Beaver has it, and Best in Slot has it, that doesn't mean I'm automatically going to buy it. By the way, when I said fuck them, I didn't mean fuck them in like a negative way. I'm like, I meant that in a, that's not relevant to me buying the game. Yeah, I'm more than happy to keep playing Prehistoric Kingdom, more than happy to keep playing, you know, Evolution 2. More than happy to go back to Evolution 1 until I feel that there is such a time that Evolution 3 is worth buying. But at present, everything I've seen, it hasn't made me fall in love with the game. It's actually why I'm really hoping when me and Evo get to have our conversation about the event and Evolution 3 in general, which we were going to do over the weekend, but unfortunately she's got the lurgy from her trip to Britain the other day. When me and her do finally have our conversation, I'm really kind of hoping that she'll be able to, you know, her optimism and stuff will be able to rub off a bit. I'm really hoping that because she's had more, you know, she had longer gameplay time and she's got more knowledge. I'm hoping that she'll be able to I guess I want to say advertise the game to me better. I probably don't mean the word advertise, but I suppose I mean convince me that perhaps some of my hang-ups are not as important or relevant or as big as I think they are. That's I suppose what I mean. Let's be fair, the Gaming Beaver is going to do a battle royale, which he hasn't changed even with the babe. Yeah, like Evo's going to be the big one that builds stuff, and I'm sure she's going to be able to come up with some amazing stuff. Notice that when Fletcher does something on Evolution 3, the viewers are over 30 more than any other. I mean, that's a good point. But this was pretty similar to when Evolution 2 came out. You know, people were happy to listen to me talk about it on stream, and then when the game came out, everybody just went off to watch Evo and stuff, and it didn't really benefit the channel in any way. Fletcher, you should check out the new dev diary for Prehistoric Kingdom. It talks about terrariums and how it's going. Yeah, I had a look at it yesterday, Chad. I think they look really good. I love the look of the terrarium building sort of thing. I'm so mixed on Jurassic Evolution 3, and I feel like I'm going to be sure if I play, it's going to be when the first DLC is announced. Yeah, because I feel at the moment it's just disappointing. It's just the management isn't there. Like, I wanted to... I was considering doing a video the week before Evolution 3 comes out on all of the things Evolution 3 doesn't improve. It doesn't improve the aviaries. It doesn't improve the lagoons. It hasn't improved the management. It hasn't improved the guests. It hasn't improved the sort of amenity management system. It hasn't given us economic controls. It hasn't given us bridges or tunnels, incredibly basic things like that. There's a lot that it hasn't done. It's just focused on babies and modular building. Evo is very aware of what Fletcher is like. She is indeed. And I'm going to do my best that when me and her have our conversation, I'm going to do my best. Hello, Nishikigoi? I'm not very good with names. I'm going to be my best. Like, I don't want to be the downer. Like, it was really, really strange when I yeah, the fact it doesn't improve animal behavior is just very disappointing. Hello, Alex. The only thing that concerns me about this game is the modular building. As a console player, I feel it would be clunky, finicky, and messy. It is clunky. And you will probably find it finicky to do on a controller. I don't know how the three-way, like the three circular thing works on a console. Because obviously with a mouse, you just click on the circle you want to change. With a controller, I assume you have to flick through them. It is going to be clunky and finicky on a console. I can assure you of that. It's Jurassic World Evolution 2, but with better terrain tools, slightly better graphics, babies, and modular building. I don't know how far I would agree with that. You do have that much more substantial campaign. I wish we'd gotten more information about the campaign than we have actually gotten. Because the campaign is one of the big selling points of the game to me. A proper Jurassic World Evolution Style 1 campaign. The scientist system is still there, and it's still as shallow as it always was. That is true, you can use a keyboard and mouse on console. People seem to forget that these days. Evolution 4 will fix the things that should have been fixed and put in Evolution 3. Yes. Quite possibly. You'll try not to be a negative Nazi. Yes, Jim. So this is what was funny, right? So I got home after going to the event, and the trip home was not easy because the trains were packed as anything. I was knackered. Okay, I'd been in London all day because I showed up early in the morning to go and meet Berenson and a few other people and go around the Natural History Museum and stuff. And oh, we got to see the new dinosaur that's at the Natural History Museum, actually. I wonder if I got a picture. Should bring this up while I'm talking. Yeah, I got home and it was probably half a combination of sheer exhaustion and annoyance at the trip home. I was talking to Dane about the gameplay, and I burst into tears because I was so aggravated that I had a bad experience, because I really wanted it to be a good one. I wanted to come home after that event and go to everybody on YouTube, haha, I'm not just a negative Nancy, I'm not just someone who complains all the time, I really, really like this game, and it does a lot of stuff that's really good, and it didn't. And that saddened me. For once, I wanted to be the positive one, because I had been positive. I've been positive so much about this game from the very start of its announcement. I have tried to be as positive as possible. It hasn't helped the channel grow. Again, I find that funny. YouTube just hasn't been very good for growing stuff at the moment. You know, here's the, suggestion to subscribe, like, etc. Please. But yeah, I was so sad when I got home and exhausted that I burst into tears. Now, whether it was just the exhaustion or not, no idea. But I was definitely sad that I got home and was just like, it sucks that I couldn't, wasn't able to just be massively as positive as I wanted to be. Which again is another reason I'm hoping that when me and Evo talk, that she might kind of bring back the she might be able to get the optimism back in there. Hopefully. Maybe. I'm just going to remove that one and bring up the picture I wanted to bring up. And then we'll continue the last 20 minutes, have a conversation. Did anyone have any questions about the game? You know, stuff I may or may not have noticed or seen when I was playing? I'll do my best to try to answer. There is the new dinosaur, by the way, that is on display at the London Natural History Museum. Basically a Drosaurus-like relative. Can't remember its name. I did take a photo of it, I think. I'm so useless at using my own phone, it's ridiculous. Let's see. Oh no, I did not take a photograph of the thing's name. That was stupid of me. You're being realistic, Fletcher, and I respect that. See? But it doesn't grow YouTube channels, realism, unfortunately. Not gonna lie, I play the game just creating small parks and watching dinosaurs for hours, so I'm not too disappointed. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's a thing. If you come to the Evolution games just wanting a box of Lego with dinosaurs, then it definitely, you now have a much better box of Lego with dinosaurs. But if you come to park management games wanting a good park management experience with systems and mechanics that aren't shallow and skin deep, Evolution 3 still fails to provide anything more than that. Do we have info about challenge modes? They didn't give anything away when I was there, no. I don't think you're a negative Nancy, like I said, Fletcher, you're down to earth. That's why I subscribed. Oh, well, it's nice to know that someone has subscribed because of how down to earth I am. Honesty is what matters. Yeah, and I suppose that feeds into me not pre-ordering yet, because it, honestly, it hasn't done what I wanted it to make me buy it. But it has improved, don't get me wrong. It has improved. And I know exactly who you're referring to there, Nish. Evolution 3 has improved. You know, the terrain tools, much better. The quality of life features, much better. And the modular building, even though I think it's been implemented terribly, the modular building is going to be massive for this game. Like, give it a few weeks, and hopefully the workshop is going to have some amazing things on it. There's going to be a lot of shit on it as well, but there'll hopefully be a lot of amazing stuff on it. So Evolution 3, it is a massive step up. It just doesn't step up it doesn't elevate every feature. And arguably some of the features it doesn't elevate are features that have been needing elevation since the very first game. We still don't have bridges. Like, it's such a basic feature, and we still don't have bridges. And I know some people think that, like, oh, bridges don't make that much difference. But they really do. Because they can completely change how you construct parks. If you can have functioning bridges over gullies and over rivers and over waterfalls and over enclosures, you can radically create completely new designs for parks. They really are important for park building, tunnels and bridges. I did see the new characters in gameplay. The replacement for Dr. Wu. I've forgotten his name. It became B. But yeah, he did pop up in the top corner when I created the Chronos. Why are they okay with Mutadons and Distorters Rex and all Jurassic World Evolution hybrids coming back, but not Smilodon? I think prehistoric mammals are going to come eventually, and I can see them coming to Evolution 3 a few DLCs down the line, or maybe in its own like expansion, because that's something people are talking a lot about, animals coming back in DLC. I really hope that Evolution 3 brings back big expansion DLCs that are not just based on the movies like they did with Evolution 2. Like, I want to see some proper, well-designed expansion packs, and I think mammals could be part of that, like Smilodon and mammoths. Because there's no, from what I can tell by the map, there's no, like, Arctic, like, heavily Arctic map. So, you know, a significantly Arctic map with some Ice Age animals in an expansion pack could work quite well, I think. I disagree a lot of the time with you, but you're clearly a normal person and not a hater. Yeah, like, if people disagree with me, they disagree with me. You know, they can put comment. You know, I always welcome discussion. What I don't welcome is people that just hate me because I don't love everything about something they enjoy, because, I don't know, I've never been that sort of individual to just like everything without talking about it and criticizing it, or seeing where things can be improved. Like, seeking improvements is not a bad thing. You subscribed 1 or 2 years ago, Minecraft. What was I doing 1 or 2 years ago? What was a big thing from then? That would have been maybe my Dinosaur with Stephen Fry videos. Which remain some of the best watched videos on the channel. Jurassic World Evolution 2 was a big leap. And it... yeah, definitely a big leap. But again, it didn't quite elevate in every area where it needed to. I never played the expansions of Jurassic World Evolution 1. Were they good? I think the expansion DLCs to Evolution 1 were better than the expansion DLCs to Evolution 2, personally. Just because the expansions to Evolution 1 and 2, Evolution 1, they were based on the movies, yes, but they weren't directly trying to just copy the movie. The problem with Evolution 2's expansion packs was it was just Dominion split in two, because it was cut content from the game that was supposed to release with this content, but COVID got in the way. So, yeah, Evolution 2 had decent expansions, but they weren't original. And Evolution 1, I felt the expansions were a bit more original in their ideas. So I'm hoping that Evolution 3 brings back original expansion DLCs. And I think they have a lot of possibility to, because it's very clear that they're... I want to say it feels that they're distancing themselves from Rebirth. Like, it feels like the Evolution 3 is in its own like alternate reality where rebirth doesn't exist. Hello, TC Diablo. Louis Baldera, yes, that was the name of the new character. It was those videos, still funny to this day. Yeah, I still occasionally watch Evo's video she did. One, because it's just nice to see my thumbnail show up in one of her videos, but also two, because like she was just it's one of the few times that I've seen Evo like rip something to shreds in the same way I have, and it's just very satisfying. Return to Jurassic Park is arguably the best expansion DLC the game has ever achieved. Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Colt. That really was the DLC that made Evolution 1. I think if that hadn't come for Evolution 1, we'd have a much dimmer view of the game. Good enough to buy and play them now? Probably not. I would say if you haven't played them now, it's probably not worth it. If you nag about the Stephen Fry stuff, I'll allow that because it was terrible. It really was bad. Rebirth not existing, I want that in reality. Yeah, I mean, one thing I can say is if I do get Evolution 3, and if they do bring Mutadons and that Distortus Rex to the game, they will never, ever be in a park build I make. Like, if it has a campaign map and they're on it, I'll do it for the campaign, but they will never be in a sandbox park. Ever. Even if I have other hybrids, I will never have them in a sandbox build. I hate them that much. I guess the only species that you'd use from a Rebirth DLC is the Titanosaurus. Yes, probably. The Titanosaurus is probably the only one from that I would use. Obviously, the Spinosaurus, if it came as a cosmetic, I would probably use that as well, because I do like the Spinosaurus design from Rebirth. It's not, you know, it's a nice middle ground between realistic, well, paleo accurate and Jurassic accurate. True, yeah, Cole. It was nice to have the returning voice talent for Return to Jurassic Park. Although I will admit, not hearing Owen Grady or Claire Dearing on any of the gameplay for Evolution 3 was very nice. It's just so nice not to hear those two particular individuals. I mean, I'm not particularly fond of Finch and Dewar and Isaac Clement and Lambert coming back, but thank God Claire Dearing and Owen Grady are gone as well. What do you think they need to do to make the game for you to pre-order? In the next few weeks? I don't think they can do anything that will make me pre-order. Because the things that would make me pre-order are stuff they can't implement in the next few weeks. They can't put bridges in the next few weeks. They can't improve the lagoons substantially in the next few weeks. They can't change the scientist system in the next few weeks. It's all pretty hard-baked stuff. The final roster reveal has the capacity to maybe make me pre-order if some favorite species of mine are in those remaining 6 roster reveals. Maybe I'll consider it. And maybe after my conversation with Evo, I'll feel a bit more positive towards the game. But that's a very big if. Like, I'm going to have to do some proper soul searching before October 21st and be like, do I get it just for the YouTube? Which I can't necessarily condone. Yeah. Recent paleo media was disappointing. Yeah, the new series of Walking with Dinosaurs did not live up to its namesake at all. Why you all care so much about bridges? Well, because bridges completely change how you build parks. And you can create much nicer looking park builds if you can have rivers that don't have to be cut off every time you want a path to go over it. You can create enclosures with, you know, floating areas in the middle where you can bring people into the middle of enclosures without cutting off any space from the paddock. You can do a lot with bridges that really can make your park builds very different. Can we now do a what do we think is cut section? So much. I think Karkar and Suko are cut. I'll be sad to see Suko go. Suko was another one of those animals that I liked. Triclaw behind the scenes discussion. Maybe Minecraft. Do you think Spikomelus would be a cool addition? You have to look that one up. Oh, is that new Ankylosaur? I would love to see that. I think Spikomelus would look so cool. And they could do quite a lot of sexual dimorphism stuff with that guy, again, if they really put their mind to it. Zuko is definitely cut for a Chaos Theory DLC. Yeah, that seems to be the prevailing theory at the moment, that they're cutting all the Chaos Theory animals, or Camp Cretaceous animals, to bring them back in a DLC. For us as an audience, I'll be the first to say you don't have to get Evolution 3 immediately and just do PK in the meantime. Maybe. Be good practice for Evolution 3 eventually. Give me Dinocaris back. I would have thought Dinocaris would have been one of those species that had already been announced by now. You know, one of the few omnivore species in the game. Relatively well received by the community. I was surprised we got Dunkleosteus, to be honest. It's another problem I have with the lagoons. Like, basically it's weighted towards all of the species that have the shark jumping. It seems like they've automatically been given a free ride. It'd be weird if they announced Dinocaris and the Therizinosaurus. Why did we get Troodon? Oh, careful, Berenzon loves Troodon, but I'm kind of with you there, Chad. I think I would have rather had a Margosaurus than Troodon. I might have to do a video before Evolution 3 releases about the animals that I think should have been kept in the roster. That might be a little controversial for some of my picks. I prefer Segisaurus to Troodos, and no one talks about Segisaurus. I would rather have had anything other than Segisaurus. You think with breeding in this game you can make a natural ecosystem. So this will be the last thing I answer in this stream, Dino, and I can tell you now it's not going to work. Because from what I saw, carnivores just kill everything they can get close to. They're still the same, you know, they kill everything that they want to kill. I don't think a natural ecosystem will be capable of being made without you interfering so much. So I think the folks that make natural ecosystems, I think they're going to be disappointed. Right, folks. Well, we are now at 11 o'clock my time here, so I'm going to end the stream here today. I want to thank you so much. Thank everyone. It's been so busy today, which I really, really like, because, you know, more people talk, more discussion is what I like in these discussion streams. I'll be back on Sunday with Evolution 2 and doing some... actually, I might do some Prehistoric Kingdom. I might play some Prehistoric Kingdom on Sunday and carry on with our building with only prefabs thing that we're doing. So yeah, that might be Sunday's build. So if you want to see me play Prehistoric Kingdom, then join on Sunday. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in today. It's been great to have so many people here discussing. Remember to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new to the channel to keep us growing towards 4,000 subs. And yeah, it's just been a good night. So, until Sunday, wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your Friday evenings. Stay safe, and good night.